Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is FMA Discussion. We're on episode 275, and today is going to be the long-awaited part 2 to FMA Books. And here I'm bringing up very shortly will be Guro Dragan. And if you recall, I had him on the first time, and I thought he did a really great job of using his 4 categories as far as when he takes a book and reviews it and all that. I thought it was well put. So he's going to give a brief description on that, but I'm thinking he's going to kind of segue more into the informational. I believe if I'm wrong, he'll correct me. So without further ado, I'm going to be bringing him up. If you've got questions, let us know. Also, stick around to the end. I got a few announcements to make regarding the raffle. And if you are watching, please tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button, and we are getting started. Hey there.
Hey, nice to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have you back. So I was just going to intro, like how I really enjoyed your 4 categories and all that you mentioned in the first episode. And you touched kind of briefly on the test run that we just did. So I'm going to let you just kind of, where you kind of want to start, as far as the categories and all that.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned in the test run yesterday, it's important to keep in mind the fact that while I came up with those categories as a tool of facilitating my understanding of the whatever book it was at hand, especially when trying to figure out what am I supposed to get out of it, that there are obvious overlaps, between those categories. There are very few books that are strictly historical, biographical, and then those that are strictly instructional, and 2 additional categories were meta level, speaking on principles and underlying ideas behind any given style, and there was what I call the overview books that try to present some sort of wider, bigger picture of what constitutes style. Now, since our first episode was unfortunately cut short due to technical issues, just as we were starting on the instructional book category, I suggest we start with that one to get those books, because I assume that maybe the majority of our viewers is probably mostly interested in that one as it is. So,
Okay.
We discussed John Russell's Balintawak book. That was the first one we touched upon, and this is where it cut off. And as you remember, that book, interestingly enough, is one of those that belong strongly into the instructional category, because he goes through a basic, short historical overview of Balintawak, how it's developed into the grouping method, and then went into detail into groupings. So now, we might start, there in that category. One that I would really like to start with, although this is an ebook in my case, is this one. It's Bernas Estocadas.
Yeah, I hear this. I haven't got it yet, but I hear it's great.
By a phenomenal team of authors. All of them happen to be members of our FMA discussion community. Obviously, Grandmaster William Bernas is the man behind the system and the main figure, but he was supported in writing the book by Paulo Pagaling, who was one of the guests on the on the podcast, right? And Paulo has I think, really strong knack to be an excellent instructor. He has a way of really analyzing things, putting things into words, and figuring out how to present certain content, principles, giving superb advice and tips on how to improve your practice. And finally, Sir Robert Parks, who is the third, like the second co-author. Sir Robert is a professor at the university college level, and actually specializing in education. So you can imagine that the book is very well done in terms of how it's presented. Like if you just took a look at the table of contents, you would probably, unless you're a Filipino from Negros region, be somewhat confused because the titles of the chapters are in Filipino, Pagsalondan, Panindog, Palakato, Pensa, Depensa, Pares Pares, and so on. So those are the different contents of the style. However, there are some really superb way of how they use the book format to present what they want to. Namely, besides the basic photo presentation, and photos are done very clear. I somehow like black and white approach in photos. For I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's some sort of maybe some retro kind of thing.
Yeah, it could be the retro aspect. Yeah,
because you remember when we were kids, all the magazines had black and white photos and so on and so forth. However, the photos are really phenomenally supported by additional graphs that are meant to portray either movement positioning in space or just going in conjunction with the photos themselves to represent specific transitions in movements and how the drills those cyclic or circular should look like and so on. This I think is just really superbly done. And then one that I really like, when people talk about the types of strikes in FMA, that they can rebound or kind of stick on or go through, just great way to give a visual representation of the idea.
Wow.
In this one, so really recommended book. I think it's one of those books that with some diligence, and especially if you have some even a modicum of practice in FMA prior, I think would be able to get a good grasp, fair grasp of the basic level. This is just what is hopefully to be the first book on the Bernas Estocada system, covering this first level of instruction. So in for the people who lack instructors in within reach, this is about as good move as any to cover in this book. Master Bernas focuses entirely on solo baston part of his curriculum. So we all by now figure out that for the grand majority of FMA styles and systems, solo stick or solo blade is where it's at.
Yeah, right. Predominantly.
So it will give you a fairly good grasp of taste of things, so that you might be able to follow along with any other style or system or method of instruction. So overall, the really well done book, and especially I think that it's always, if you can choose a book to support the authors, especially if you have some sort of relationship with them, and it's the choice is made even easier by the fact that the book is really excellent. So there's just no downside to getting this one.
No, I've heard nothing but accolades about it. Matter of fact, Robert Parks donated to the raffle. I think he's donating for them, and I'm actually entering the raffle so I get worst comes to worst, I'm just going to buy it. But folks are just jumping in. What Dragan is talking about is the book by Bernas. It's triple. It's Robert Parks, Bernas, and Paulo Pagaling, and it's supposed to really, I've heard nothing but positive things on it. It's supposed to be really well done. Obviously covering the compo, and just nothing but positive feedback I've heard on it. So if you get a chance, definitely check it out. And again, Robert Parks is donating to the raffle, I believe. And Robert Parks also is coming on this month, end of the month. So that's gonna be nice to have him. And we got folks.
Lovely gentleman. I'm sure you'll have a great.
Yeah, he seems. Just in the private messaging back and forth. He just seems like a real nice guy, class act. And we got Brett. Hello, D&D from Kentucky. And we got Baste. Hey, Baste. And the unusual but very cool that this interview has gone book based. Yeah, I think so too, Brett. We want to highlight books, and obviously that's going to help our community along with the authors too. Support them on their endeavors and what they've done. So absolutely. More than instructional, you got the first copy, but this I really like for reference. I just do. Everybody kind of knows that this is her specialty and all that. I'm sure as well as other stuff, but it's apparently what she's truly known for. But again, this is I really enjoyed it. It shows, it's got pics, of the old gym, for instance, folks you can see there. It's black and white, and there's some colored pics. A lot of, Tommy Dye. They go into the, the size and the length of the weapons practice. Just pretty illustrative in that regard. Your grips, so forth. It goes into different strikes, right there. And basically, then further and foremost, very, again, black and white pictures in the old gym. Pretty nostalgic. You know what I mean? Master Tony, R.I.P. and Master Tom, who's in Canada now. But I really, if you like spotty dagger, punti dagger, depending on what system, what nomenclature you use for it, I highly recommend this. It's not expensive. I don't think you can't get the first one anymore that Dragan has, but that one I try to get and you can't. However, though, from my understand, this one is still available. From my understand, I hope. But just goes into and then shows a bunch of pictures, just with Peachy and Jam Tony, what else? It really, shows the footwork. It gives the name. So in other words, like kind of what Dragan was saying, like you could look at this book. I'm not saying you're going to emulate everything and all that. However, though, you would get a decent, aspect as far as, what's being shown here to practice at least and all that. I'm not saying, it's obviously going to be the sole reference for that, for your KI journey, but, in other words, like here, you look at, the Elastico, what Master Tommy's doing on Kenneth Coe. You know what I mean? So you get a good view of that, what he's doing. I mean, he's leaning back, he's on his heel, his front ball foot's up, such like that. For instance, Ritarata footwork, Talamboa. What else?
I would say that in that regard, the second edition is probably even more user friendlier than the first one. Because in the first one, Miss Peachy uses basically the terminology, to show the drill from the feeder and defender side, and then goes to illustrate them, through photos.
Okay.
These are again two of your former guests, Coach Arnold and Guru Shamim, right? Doing that kind of thing. So, but this is about the extent of explanation. It is profusely illustrated, I have to say. Like some of the drills are really, done as a very long photo series, like frame by frame, but with very few textual, verbal explanations. But then, like I was, talking to you, to me, the main, value of this particular book is in the autographs of, Coach Arnold and the author Miss Peachy and the late Grandmaster Tony. So, this one is a keeper in that regard. It gives but like you said, Dean, it gives a really good insight into this particular segment of the Illustrissimo, style.
Yeah.
I don't know if I may say so. I don't have the book on me to show. Super Dan Anderson has a pretty good book on Spari Daga that is not style focused, and it gives you a really good introduction starting
Really? I
from
would
the
have never guessed.
foreground and moving up as a result of his research. If I remember, in communication with him, he told me that it was like his research into what he felt was missing from his instruction in modernist. Now I'm so sorry that I have it as an ebook. It's DRM protected on another device, and I don't have it around on the phone. So unfortunately, I cannot show the. But just go to Super Dance.
Yeah,
Online,
yeah, I would. I
you'll
tell you.
find it. It's a really good book. If you're into Espada y Daga in particular,
Yeah.
that's probably a good place to start. And then to move into more applications, I'd go with with Miss Sagin's book. So there
Yeah.
you go.
And again, like for instance, they go into the fondo, they show, here, you're in that range block. And again, the pitch, well done. You know what I mean? Like we both said, you're not going to come at this being obviously an expert or like that. However, that you will get a good feel by the descriptive, as far as the wording and the pictures that parallel that, what's going on. I thought it was well done. Pictures versus the descriptions. I thought you did a good job and all that. They have 10, like, she goes through basically, 10 drills as far as, how you progress within within doing, Punta y Dagger. There's kind of a closing where she explanatory notes. She goes over some of the different names and, what they mean. But, chapter 21, there's teachers and all that. She goes into, GM Norman, who just a fantastic guy. I was really hoping he'd come on again. GM Martin, GM Galan, Henry Aspera is in here. Yeah, this picture right here is great. If you guys can see it, it's got to be pretty early because you're seeing PJ Edgar, GM Tony, Master Regalan, of course, the great one himself. But yeah, thumbs up on this one, guys. If you can get one Dragon's got, man, that's going to be tough. But I think this one is still in print, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think I might go, for that one as well to complement the first one.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be. Now, see, since we're on the sort of on a streak on the instructional books that focus on a single aspect, I might as well go, with another one by Master Ray Galang, Sinawali book.
Sinawali.
Yeah, this is, one of those gems. It's a small book, but it doesn't get much better done than this one. Although, admittedly, yesterday we talked about how sometimes the pictures get small.
Yeah.
But in this particular case, it is so well explained. The text and the pictures go so well together. He really honed in on how to do a superb presentation of a topic that may not really easily lend itself to being done in a book form, but he managed to do it.
So say Sinawali, man, that's not an easy task.
What I really like is that he goes not just through the motions. He'll go like show a sort of a pattern on its own, and then how it goes done in partner as a partner drill, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that when you put all the patterns, the motions that are depicted in a book, when you put them together and do like one cycle through each, starting one on the right side and then the next on the left, you end up having sort of a drill or a form, whatever you want to call it, which is listed with all the moves and parts. And I talked to Master Ray how he came up with the concept, and he said, like, the form is just there to remind you of what needs to be worked on. Just pick individual moves or individual. You can look at the form as a book, and then individual patterns and drills as chapters that you work on individually accordingly to functionalize them, to practice them, functionalize them, put it into use. He also ends up with pretty good depiction of how to proceed into including it in your own practice in application, how to work on it, what are the important aspects, attributes, and things to work on if you want to get it right in your work. So it was published probably at the time when Mark Wiley was the editor.
Yeah.
So the connection is there. We in our first episode we mentioned two books by Master Ray, The Warrior Arts of the Philippines and Masters of the Blade. Obviously, he's just phenomenal author. His book on his treatment on Espada y Daga actually comes from a different source as a interpretation of Placido Yambao's first book on Arnis. That basically came out in 1957. Master Ray translated it into English and then did a wider explanation of the moves and techniques in their applications. And although I'm obviously not an expert on regional variations and lineages, some people commented that, with all due respect to Master Ray, maybe Yambao should be interpreted differently. I don't know. We'll see if Guru Abombayat from Garimot will be able to give more insight on this. But in the meantime, if you're looking for a good, excellent Cinevali, look no further than this one. Plus it's a really an affordable one. Maybe like we mentioned yesterday, we are obviously not aware of all the phases of the publishing business and what goes into putting the book out. But this one is a really, really good package.
When regarding his book, there is he still coming out with a fourth book? Is that still occurring?
No, it's actually the fifth.
Or I'm sorry, fifth.
This is the third, and then his Placido Yambao reinterpretation is fourth. Like it's called Classic Arnis.
Okay.
Well, yes, he is. He is. Burton wrote a preface for that one, and hopefully, Master Ray will be able to finalize it in a foreseeable future, so that we can again enjoy his talent in putting things into print.
Yeah, the reason why I remember
hard to explain.
Burton mentioning it, and then I forgot about it until you started talking about his books, and I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he supposed to come out with another one? That book that you just showed, that's his third?
I don't know the exact order. I think this may be his first, actually.
Oh, that might be his first. Okay.
Yeah, I think. Because it's, let me see the year. It was in 2000, and then the next two were in 2005, 6. The Warrior Arts and Masters of the Blade.
Warrior Arts.
And then the Classic Arnis came a couple years later.
Okay.
And this new one that we're hoping for should be his fifth.
Yeah. I mean, we got some folks. We got two. We got more folks joking. We got Terry. Hey. We got Atheil. That man from California making those weapons. We got Navarro. Hey.
Noah is a great guy, great instructor, man. You
I know.
On the show.
He's always been fantastic. Paste, Dragan Dean, Julius is familiar with a lot of Yambo-related material and personalities. He could probably comment on this. Yeah. Julius definitely has tapped into some areas that I am completely.
Yeah. Julius comes from Julius is also originally from that part of the Philippines.
The region, right?
And he had some training with people who are related to the Yambao lineage. And I'd like to see what he says to.
That'd be fascinating
on the subject, definitely.
Yeah. So Here's one. Okay, and folks are very familiar with this book. You know what's so interesting, folks, just before I show the book, is that what's been one of the side dishes, one of the great side dishes of doing these episodes when I first started is I really got to know significantly more about systems, particularly the ones that I wasn't really knowledgeable in. And one of those, of course, I've always heard about memory presses, but that's not to say I knew anything about Martinez or the impact that he had as far as the United States and Europe and all that until I started doing these interviews and having Martinez people on, and I'm like, wow, this guy was pretty significant. So here, this is, I believe, second edition, I believe. If I'm not, yeah, definitely not the first. So definitely second. This was gifted to me by, I had Brian Zielinski, which was very nice of him, and who was on the show. But this is definitely I mean, this book is everything from the equipment being used, the grip, cardinal rules and principles underneath, shows that, the whole body, even calisthenics, because obviously he got into school systems, over in the Philippines, stances, shows like, again, just, there. I don't know when the first edition came out. I'm sure perhaps somebody on here that's watching, if you do know, I mean, please, chime in. But you go through the 12 striking techniques. It's actually pretty well done. They show the stance, and then it shows the delivery of the angles here. And this is the first and second angle that I'm showing right now there. And then it goes so on forward from number 3, 4, 5, 6, just so it's again really well laid out and all that as far as like the picture. So if you're somebody that really likes pictures and you learn like me, this is done well. I need pictures. I don't need. It's helpful for me to have pictures. Blocking techniques. Again, it's kind of showing inward block against a strike. Your structure and all that. Pretty again, a lot of pictures. Well done. And this is an iconic book. I mean, this is one of those, must have, whether you're in modern Nice or not. What he did as far as the impact in the United States for spreading art.
And the comment from Baste is a good example of what we mentioned yesterday. Some people, some authors, write in a way that really speaks to and inspires you to undertake, to embark on the research and training. This book would be, I think it's one of probably those seminal works that opened the door to an entire generation of an entire new market.
Not only that, I totally agree with you, but so not only does his book open doors to things, but him himself opened doors to spreading the art and all that. So I think there's a duality as far as his influence of what he did versus his book in there. Like here, check this out, folks. It's pretty, so basically it shows a sequence, like how you would be, like for instance, this is against striking technique number 3 and 4 on each page, but it actually shows, the steps, the block and return. Obviously, Martinez really being known for block and return. When I had Mark Wiley on, it was funny. Mark Wiley, guy who's done several, martial arts and FMA styles. One thing, the thing he mentioned in his interview, and he gave complete credit to, that Martinez gave him the building blocks. And so when I look at this book, I totally can see what he means by that, just by what's being here as far as, pictures and all that. So again, kind of a must-have, whether you're a Martinez practitioner or not, just what he's done for FMA, in general. And we got,
and that book is, I think, head and shoulders above his O'Hara published book. It was the yellow one later. Now it has the color cover of the late Grandmaster Presses with a partner doing something, better looking. But there's a lot of fluff in that one, if I may say so. This, original pink book is the way to go.
Yeah, again, folks, again, just really well laid out pictures. Again, if you're a picture guy, it's the book for you. All right, we got Morgan. Kind of disappointed Dean doesn't own any of Stephen Hayes' Ninja books. Morgan, I'm getting there. You gotta give me some time. I
No,
promise you though, by next
and
year.
just give me a wink or a nod, and if we start, going other books that are not strictly FMA but kind of related, man, I could go on for hours. Like this one, I really, really wanted to present.
Oh, what's
Now,
that?
Luis Preto, the author here, is an instructor in Jogo do Pau, which is a Portuguese
Oh, the
staff
Portuguese
fighting
thing.
and speed
Okay.
fighting, yes, sir.
Yeah.
However, this, as you can see in the title, is how to sequence the teaching of uh, for
Technique
all
and
fencing-based martial arts. How to sequence the teaching of
technique and
technique
tactics.
and tactics.
Yeah.
So the thing is, this, if you're an instructor, this book is a lifesaver because even if you're not twirling a two-handed like dos manos kind of weapon, even if you go single-handed, the thing is he was really able to figure out the teaching progression in terms. I mean, it's not surprising having in mind that Luis has master degrees from two universities, both training related. One is in sports science, the other is in coaching.
Okay.
So the man can talk the talk and walk the walk. He did a whole bunch of fighting, teaching, conducting seminars, classes, whatnot. So like from the contents, he goes with the principles for teaching technique. So what are the teaching, like the pedagogy techniques that go behind it, and then principles for developing tactical skill, and then developing a teaching curriculum. How do those come together in order to produce a functional outcome in your students, your trainees? So he kind of divides it into stage one is all around introduction to fencing. He uses the word fencing in order to cover everything that comes from that historical background. Then in stage two, it's in-depth development of technique and tactics, starting with the striking, because it gives meaning to everything else, followed by pairing, and then functional combat tactics, including footwork, feinting, because ultimately, and I happen to agree with Luis here, all fighting is about decision making in real time under duress. And I think he really dialed in this teaching approach. Having had his own fair share of good and not so good instructors, he knows what was the frustration in dealing with this kind of thing. I think that this is the first edition. I think that the second edition has a different cover, possibly, but it's still the same book. Yeah, this one again, has a dedication. But then, Luis and I kind of grew to be real great friends, over the years. So, I just cannot recommend his stuff enough. Because it's really very easily translatable to FMA. Very easily, regardless of the stuff. If you're an instructor, even if you're not, this is just such a great book to kind of analyze your own training. It will help you recognize what the missing pieces are if you feel there's something missing. So just Luis's books on Amazon, one better than the other.
Yeah, if it's helpful, regardless of the art you're doing, I mean, that's a winner. We had Julius Bostic Carlos. Too bad they were all dead. The last keeper of the flame from Meganmoy settled later in life in the Canuck land in Toronto specifically. Okay. Wow, Terry had a copy back in the 70s. Man. Jeez. Wow. I didn't realize that first came out that early. Wow. You want to barter, just kidding. It's not replaceable too as it would be, but also what we found in history is, to me, is about finding much and willing to give some up. And Brett, most of those things have memories attached. Yeah, exactly, on the priceless Guru, Terry. Yeah, 100%. So, folks, here's one. Okay. I haven't, gotta be honest, I've been kind of flooded with getting books from doing the show and all that. So I am really way behind. But this was so, matter of fact, I got to show the other two. This is such a kind gesture by Kirk McCune. So I interviewed Kirk, and he basically just gifted me, wrong ones. Hold on. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Here we go. After interviewing him, he gifted me 3 books, and one's basically here. Okay. This. And lastly, here. Okay. So the smaller one here, The Secrets of Your Honor Niece, is this one I kind of skimmed through, to be honest. And again, kind of like what I just went over as far as the Meyer Niece book. Really, it's on, obviously the book's on the smaller end, However, though, table of contents, he's going to develop a defining art, the secret, the 20 styles of the fan, the foundation of the art, the forward, excellent forward here by Dan Asano. It doesn't get much better than that. Then he gets into, the introduction, the development of the fighting art, the whole there. But when he starts getting into, after he came over here, and it's really, really, again, on the smaller end, but still, the pictures are still pretty clear. You still get a pretty good essence, what Tony Samara, of course, the late great GM Hiron, Tony Samara also, passed. But Stella di Abanico, De Cielo de Salon, all those on the fan. And again, this is one of those systems, guys, that I always knew about, but until I interviewed Kirk McCune, actually Guru Terry and the crew out there, Multi Stockton, I got a better idea. So again, just through these interviews, just incredible information you find out, and then in addition, to the receiving these books from Master Kirk, just really. But again, shows basically it goes through a sequence here. Just again, on the smaller end, but still, I thought well done. Here, the next one here, definitely bigger. Okay, and again, this is this one I have not gotten to yet. So forgive me, but.
I have gone through it a couple times. So if you
this one here,
I'm feeling, basically, I think that that one, the big one, is probably what the authors wanted to do originally, even with Tuttle, but they were confined by the demands of the publisher, and then decided to go full throttle on the bigger one. And I love that book, man. It's just it is. If you wonder into which of the categories it does fall, it's mostly it's the historical biographical book with the overview segment towards the end. Mm-hmm. Now the overview is really well done. It gives you very good taste of the 20 styles from the Master's fan, the styles that make the overall Bahalanao or the Hiron Eskrima system, and you get just enough to get a basic idea of how does it look like, what does it mean to achieve, what is the purpose of each style, and where do they fit in within the bigger picture of that. But the main portion, I read the book probably 3 or 4 times over the last years, 15 years, or when was it first put out. It's the story. I love reading the history and biographies of the old grandmasters, because it really gives a deeper meaning towards understanding why what they did, how they did it. It's really easy to get disattached from the historical and social circumstances that led to the formation and formulation of certain styles and systems, and why were they done that way. And if you don't mind, this is a really, that's a really phenomenal book in that regard. One of my favorite. That was only recently did I get something that kind of talked to me in a similar way in terms of how it portrays the historical circumstances, and that would be this one.
Oh, the Tilo Balentowak. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
Julius interviewed him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Julius had him on the program, and the thing about it's called Balentowak Eskrima Original Saavedra style, or Saavedra, and this is where the crux lies in, because we all heard about Lorenzo and Teodoro Saavedra as the pillars of Labangon fencing club back in 1920, which evolved into the Doce Pares club in 1932, right? However, besides being just briefly mentioned, and say that the Saavedras were the main, the most famous fighting family of the Cebu at the time, we really don't get any more information about them. Now, Grandmaster Atheil here was actually, their close neighbor. One got to know Saavedras firsthand to live to them. His father was a really close, tight friend of the late Teodoro Saavedra, and they were in the guerrillas together during World War II. And there's just a whole bunch of first-person, witnessed accounts of challenges and fights that they went through, and the evolution of the old man Teodoro Tatay Ansong Saavedra's style and his incarceration. The man was put in prison for fighting against Spanish, and stayed there until the American stint in the Philippines. So you got to actually lost like a really much closer view into the lives of some legendary names, but that were pretty much just the name token domains, such as Delfin Lopez, Timoteo Maranga, the Saavedras, of course, Ansion Bacon. Now the author, Grandmaster Crispulo, Atheil openly says what is his grudge against Ansung Bacon, and how he, lived with it, overcame it in a way. Also, his rivalry with the late, Kakoi Cañete.
Oh, Kakoi, yeah.
Because they had this last, duel organized in the Philippines. And the political background and how it went. This is a really captivating book to read. The instructional portion towards the end is okay, not really, all that important if you are familiar with Balintawak as it is. But see, I don't think you can really see the. But here is okay, So the table of contents, it has actually a few chapters about Lorenzo Saavedra, and then the founding of Labangon Fencing Club, and then the Doce Pares Club, and then probably the biggest portion is the segment during the World War II, because both his dad and Teodoro Saavedra and Delfin Lopez were all together in Persian guerrillas, and it's really interesting to hear almost like play-by-play commentary on stuff that was going on, and how their skirmishes with Japanese happened, and how Doring Saavedra met his end from the hands of Japanese soldiers, including his final resistance. And then, the founding of the Balintawak itself, as they separated from those separates, how it happened, why it happened, where and how, and then, a number of challenges that they all fought. And, and then finally, like in overview for the last 30, 40 pages is an overview of some Balintawak, Atheil Balintawak teaching methods and stuff, because again, Balintawak, it's about, single stick. So, but he focuses more on stuff such as angles of attack, 4 methods of defense, methods of attacks, sparring drill, disarm techniques here and there. So really, again, just like with the Leo Hiron's book, this one really takes the cake in terms of the history and biography of the masters, more so than giving the overview of a system itself, because in the days of YouTube, you're better advised to go and see it in motion, because you'll get a better grasp of what you're doing. But in terms of historical value, this one was really a beacon for me.
It's kind of sad. I've been trying to just find out more and more information on the whole Saavedra family, just because I wanted to basically get an offspring, or a distant relative, or someone that had some familiarity and history on the family and the impact they had. And come to find out, I was talking to Eugene Samuel. He's a mutual friend of Yuli Romo, and we were talking, and he said, according to him, that most of them post-World War II family gone white. And it's so sad, because I really wanted to try to get somebody to speak on that system, and there's just nothing. He's just saying, no, post-World War II, just gone. And just how sad the impact they obviously had, even though obviously it was a tumultuous time between Dose Paris and all that, but still, though, there was obvious significance of what that family did, and not to have any current representation on them, or nobody to speak on behalf of them, is kind of sad,
Yeah, arguably so. One of the things that is said here in this book, that Delfin Lopez, having learned most of his eskrima from Dorin Saavedra, he joined Balintawak, as support to Anshin Bakon, who also was the main training partner of Dorin Saavedra and student of his uncle Lorenzo. So that essentially Balintawak is what we have the closest thing to the Saavedra style today. And then again, of course, the author says it's his version is probably the closest one. But regardless of that, like you said, it's just the fact that we have no traces that it's for all intents and purposes extinct. That really makes it.
It's kind of sad. You know what I mean? You can't even get anybody to talk to. Like you were mentioning, the remnants that we're maybe seeing in modern day Balintawak today, but still, it'd be kind of nice to speak to someone. You know what I mean? It's just, here's a system, man. Unfortunately, I don't hate to even say this and be pessimistic, but might die out. And this is Stephen Dowd's system that he got. And basically, Stephen Dowd is the only, and when we had him on the show, kind of the caretaker of the system. I guess there's somebody in Canada, but he's not active. And basically, it's Arnis Belite. Here's another system I knew nothing about until we had Stephen Dowd on. Couldn't tell you anything about it, but these are definitely, I'm going to go over this one first, and then his Quintal book, the Carlito Lanata kind of lineage. Again, this book, obviously on the small end, not, total pages, 60 something, okay? A lot of pics, definitely from a, instructional point of view, definitely some content, some historical content of the system, and all that, and and this teacher, some old pics, obviously those who don't know, Stephen Dowd was in the Navy, hence in the Philippines, and so forth and so on. and it shows him basically with the family and all that. It goes into, it's gonna be small, but basically it goes into what they call beginner, and then all the material for beginner and student going up to empty hand and what they do. It's definitely on the smaller end, folks. But I believe his books are reasonably priced. I don't think they're that expensive, really. So, picks up the footwork, Um, sadly, and this is coming from Steve, not from me, but I don't think he's got anybody, which he indicated to me last time we had him on, that anybody that was like going to take over the system, or like an heir per se, or somebody like a top student. So when he unfortunately passes, this could be another system that could go by the wayside, which is really, really sad to even.
Maybe that's a hint for Mahipalunia.
Yeah, which is just but again, folks, the print is small, definitely on a small end, but worth definitely getting. It's not expensive, small, and again, it's kind of a tribute to Stephen Dowd, who's done so much for his community. I mean, Stephen Dowd, as you all well know, FMA Digest, FMA Informative. I mean, just, covered people, basically doing the written version when I do here in the live video version. So really deserves a lot of credit, like what he's done for the community. So if you guys, it'd be kind of a salute to him, if he did get it. He's not active on Facebook, but you can still Facebook Messenger. Again, here's his second one. Again, not many pages. This one's a little more pages than the first one, but this is the Quintal under Carlito Landana system, and this is, again, it gets into the whole here. Those who don't know about that style of Quintal, definitely more in the beginning on traditional martial arts forms. I mean, there's 7 kicks, 7 punch. If you were to see it from afar, you probably would think it was a traditional martial art. Apparently, when you get deeper, is when you kind of get more of the Quintal stuff. But here's to the like, here you go. Like, again, if I didn't tell you this was Quintal, I mean, just by looking at pictures, you would say, "Oh man, looks like a horse stance. Looks like a front kick." I mean, so very definitely. And Steve admitted that. Again, he alluded to, as you got deeper into system, you got into the more deeper stuff, as far as the Quintal and all that. I mean, chamber, all that. But again, just what he's done, I think if you can, like, they're worth getting, just because it'd just be a nice thing to do for him, since he's done so much for the community and all that. So it's just, again, just from a gesture point of view. Yeah, it's degrees. Like, I forget, I don't recall what degree he is. I know he's up there, but matter of fact, I think Carlito is actually in the States now, in the South. I know he's up there in age, and his son is still in the Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. I think one of the Carolinas or Georgia, Carlito is, if I'm not mistaken. If anybody knows that, please. At the end, please make a list of books mentioned. Yeah. So sure. Which you covered what thus far? Just so if I make mention at the end for everybody.
Yeah, we both talked about Peach's book.
Peaches, yeah.
Yeah, and then I also went through.
Okay, you're right, yeah.
Yep. In the Valley.
Yeah.
And then there was the Bernos Estacadas.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bernos. Yeah.
This one wasn't FMA per se, but sequence of teaching technique and tactics in fencing arts.
And then Attila.
And there was Atheil and Atheil, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And now we are still kind of, we're moving outside the. I have one more that I wouldn't like to skip. in terms of instructional books, Tom Meadows is the Filipino fighting whip. This is,
Ooh.
because it's such a rare thing to be seen,
Yeah.
and he trained with the late Momoy Cañete
Okay.
to focus on the whip. This is, I like the late great company Paladin Press, and this book is, it's one of those overview books because it has a history thing, and it talks about the design of the whip, in terms of the nomenclature of the parts and everything, which I think is actually quite welcome, because it's not one of those weapons that you meet every day, right?
Yeah.
Every step. So if you're interested in it, he gives recommendations of which are good combative attributes of a combative whip, how to do what to do. So his basic sources are Pat Marinas' Paranandata, right? And Momoy Canete's San Miguel Escrima. Here is the author with the late Grandmaster Momoy, right?
All right.
And so, he then goes into the grips, manipulations, techniques, with cracking, see the different grips and actions.
Okay.
Right. So this book is, and then of course, obviously the support weapons with the whip, because, whip is a real specific in terms of how it can be applied, which distance does it function at. There's a specific manner of handling it. So, there's, to have a knife as a backup is always a advisable thing. I mean, as far as we talk about, fighting.
That's the only book on whips, though. I don't recall seeing another book on whips. Do you?
Well, James Floriega has one on Shambok, which is a whip-like a semi-flexible, semi-rigid instrument.
Okay.
But so, this one I really liked. It's something of again, really specialty kind of book.
Yeah.
But you were the Sayok guy, as you know, that they used whips to develop certain.
I still have my whip from them. Yeah, I still play around.
There you go. Certain attributes in terms of moving, handling the weapons overall, and that kind of thing. So, again, Tom Meadows, and forward was done by Daniel Santo. I mean, I guess that Guro Dragan has dozens upon dozens of forwards written.
I know, isn't it something? He's probably got the most. Shit.
Yeah. Well, so really, so he even goes through pictures, but also tables like possible pairings of angles and strikes.
Right.
And so it's if you have an interest in that particular tool, there are really not many options.
That's what I was gonna say. Like during,
to look for. So
I got into it. I probably would never got into it if I wasn't in SAOC. I can't imagine I would have just picked up a whip and just, you know what I mean? But I can tell you, man, I got, it's kind of sad to say, I got pretty good at it. And then, of course, I put it down. Didn't keep up with it because I did other things. And like about a year ago, I picked it up and it was ugly. I was, oh, crap. I'm just like, it's just one. Yeah. I mean, like, I went from like pretty decent at it to now just.
To former.
God off. And now I'm like, I better put this thing away before I just really. But it was fun though. I mean, like you get that crack, like depending on how many like tails you got at the end, you can really get the snap and really in the but yeah, I probably should have kept it going, but oh well. Yeah. It's one of those things. So do you want to stay on instructional or would you have in mind?
No, not necessarily. Like, we already moved towards different, like this one. Speaking of, we mentioned Mark Wiley as an author, but he's also a great publisher. This is Estalilla Cabaron Escrima. As far as I know, Master Ramiro Estalilla Jr. is still alive. He's
he is in California.
Of advanced age. This is a great book, man. it's
I didn't
definitely in the
know.
domain of overview, but it really covers a lot of ground, man. He has a historical point, which is interesting because he, again, we typically either hear about Cebu
Okay.
or Pampangan kind of stuff. So he goes more into his section of Philippines in his childhood. Then there is the biographical sketch because it plays a role into explaining how his style developed as it is. And then he goes into the overview of the style, and he says it's an introduction to a three-part system. So what is Cabaron, what is Kadanan in terms of old and new style system, and then Tiradin and Todosan, those are two approaches in terms of handling the force coming from your opponent. And I mean, it's really, really hard to even, it's a hefty book, like 300, I don't know how many pages, I'm not even sure, but it's a pretty good book, I think around 200-ish. That does an excellent job of portraying what it wants to be done. I think he mentioned at some point that Master Wiley was pestering him for years upon years to come up with the book, which he finally did.
Oh, thank God he did.
A really great one. And plus, it's one of those instances where the author comes across from the book as such a nice human being. I mean, I have his instructional video from way back, and he really struck me as a really nice, down-to-earth gentleman with such a pleasant attitude and overall mode of conduct. And so he's like one of those. And then I really, really love the book. It's great how it portrays some of the more important principles.
Dragan, what's the name of the book again?
Estalilla Cabaron Escrima. I'll just go back. I'll go back to the
in case if folks want to
cover. Yeah, Estalilla Cabaron Escrima overview of the three-part system. Here it goes.
And when did that? Just roughly, when did that come out? What year?
Well, it was published by Tamboli, so I'd say 2017.
Okay, all right. Okay, so fairly recent. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to get. Matter of fact, I kind of feel bad. I didn't realize that was out. I'm gonna have to grab that. Yeah, we spoke to him actually, and I'm still working on this. He's definitely alive in California. A gentleman in the Carolinas is kind of a student of his. And we actually spoke about getting him on. The daughter's a nurse, and there's been some issues with coordination, how to get him set up as far as the technology aspect to get on the show and all that. But on the phone, what a wonderful person. I mean, everything you just described as far as like his personality, talking to him, just,
Yeah, he's one of those people that just radiate in any form, whether it's, you're looking at him, reading from him, listening to him. It's just so obvious that he is such a great. I mean, you can see that in all pictures, people with him are smiling.
Yeah.
No badass posing, grand warrior.
No, probably something radiating.
People will enjoying their relationship and their time with him, and so just something. And the book is really, I would say, translates this field really, really well. So how I don't know. Sometimes you have an impression of a person from reading their stuff, or if they're a musician listening to the music, and then when you meet them in person, you go,
what happened?
Exactly. Something got lost in translation. I have a deep feeling that in this case it's
I tell you, I was with him on the phone. He was absolutely wonderful. It's something I haven't given up on yet, but there was definitely some complications far as coordinating with the daughter and her nursing schedule. So that was really the big issue there. That's why I make. Steve Brody's here. I wonder if he's still here. Anyone that uses the term pedagogy gets a vote for me. Well, that's funny. If you're still here, say you're still here. We have you both have, mine, it's funny, Brett, mine got big after doing these episodes. I got to be honest with you. A lot of these books were gifted to me, obviously very, very nice people that did that. Yeah, so that definitely helped with the growth. No bookshelf picks. Do you have a bookshelf pick? I don't know if they're gonna be able to see mine. Actually, you know what? They can actually.
I sent you the pic of mine just prior to the first one.
There you go, Glenn. But there's more, Glenn. I'm in the process of organizing. If you believe it. So,
let me see.
Still Mike area. So we'll take that.
This would be, some of mine. They don't all fit into a single picture, right? So okay, give me a break.
Still Mike area starting.
Then more.
Yeah. Hey, you know who's got to come out with a book?
And then more yet.
Guess who needs to come out with a book? I think Steve Grody needs to write a book.
I'm on it.
I think he needs to write a book on his cognitive knife. I think he needs, or
Absolutely.
his empty hand FMA. I think
those
are two areas he should write a book on.
Yeah, if you remember, he was one of the instrumental players in my understanding of the Master Race, Masters of the Blade book. You may remember that I said this book kind of pointed me towards Lameco, because it has special rules, and then Steve Grody, and then Dave Gould, and Bob Bellani, and I figured out that, well, at the time when I was trying to figure out how to proceed with the book, what would be the order of the study if you wanted to put the book to practice. At one point, I looked back and said, "No, wait a minute! All these guys that really talk to me and make most sense come from Lameco, so there's got to be something to it, And it was like, another book that opens the doors, right?
There it is, guys.
That chapter alone, well, like any other the book, but that chapter alone is worth the price of the book.
Oh my God, he's sporting a goatee.
And it can really put you on a great path to functionality.
Oh, I love his cognitive knife. I just think for knife on knife, I think it's one of the best things that I've seen and all that. I'm looking so today.
I haven't had the opportunity to see his instructional videos on the system, but what he wrote.
Check out the cognitive knife. You can, PM and all that. And folks, you know what's so exciting? I'm actually in this book. When the Atienzas came to Torrington, Connecticut, I had for a seminar, and you're not gonna be able to see it, but hey, I'll try to show it to you anyway. This shows you how long this was, like about 20 years ago, folks, and it's gonna be tough to see, but in this picture right there, I'm in the back. You're not gonna be able to see, but hey. So I'm in this book. Not like Steve Brody or David Gould, but I'm in it.
Well, you were an extra.
I'm supporting cast. I wonder if he's going to graffiti knife fighting. That's going to be his book, Graffiti Knife Fighting. That's my wall.
I'm in it. Yeah.
My opinion, guys, just went way up. Oh, that guy's so funny. Oh, well, if you feel free or you feel in a good way, if you want to maybe just give it a hint what you're writing about. If not, we understand. We'll be suspenseful and wait. Jay DeLong, right? Ronaldo Along Sinawali is one of those books about double stick that I have. Any other books out there about double sticks?
Well, right now, not this one, but Not any that are like specifically dedicated, but just give me a second.
Sure. Wow, that's great that you're writing a book, Steve. I'm so glad to hear it. I'm sure it'll be nothing but fantastic.
Glenn Gutierrez asked about, yesterday we mentioned Mr. Christian Brown. Now his books are in German, right? And this is as you can see, this is the part 2. You remember yesterday during our test run, I was mentioning part 1.
Yes, I did.
Again, he goes, full throttle, color pictures, glossy paper, a whole bunch, 300 and almost 50 pages, covers a lot of ground. I mentioned him yesterday because it is one of those overview books that presents a lot of disciplines and weapons and sections done within school or system, but he doesn't stay on just 1 or 2 techniques on a couple pages. He actually give a full chapter to each one. In this one, he does treat double sticks that are done pretty well. The first part has more material on double sticks. This one again goes into it, right? It has it's when it comes to Sinawali, like double stick, this chapter in this book is the continuation of the one in part 1. However, then he goes with you see Espada y Daga. That one is a bit more consuming, has more, and then solo stick, and then cadena de mano again, but this time working like the knife drills, going into Buno or Dumog, whatever you want to call it, different like stand-up grappling applications of Filipino martial arts, Sikaran and Pananjakma, so like kickboxing with a Filipino flavor, at least, in terms of terminology.
Yeah, terms, right, exactly.
Like probably the main portion of this book, because this, I think, is the biggest chapter in this book, is on the empty hand, in part 2.
Yeah.
And then he goes like into a somewhat elongated treatment of Hubad. Okay. With various, versions, applications, twists, and so, all in all, like I said, if you're looking for an overview, but with something to actually get your teeth in, sink your teeth in and work on, even if you don't read or understand German in the place, just, following the pictures will...
Pictures alone, right.
Yeah, it will give you something to work with, because it's really clearly demonstrated. So, plus a lot of main terminology is still in English or the overall accepted, Filipino terms. So, you'll be able to orient yourself through the material, But then, yeah.
What category did we not cover as far as your 4?
You know what? We didn't mention the meta, and that's what I wanted to go next.
Here's the thing, because we're coming up on an hour and a half, and I have to go at 6:30. But I would love to do a part 3 with you. Like, what category did you not get?
Well, we can maybe to kind of get the ball rolling into the meta level category. Now, even within that category, there could be several subcategories. Like again, I mentioned Super Dan, this book, Filipino martial arts, the core basic structures and essentials. It's a unique book, man. Super Dan comes from a fighting background, and
right.
What he works here is this transcends styles and systems. The table of contents is here.
Okay.
So okay.
Yeah.
When you see that he talks about structure in transition, alignment in transition, and then the dichotomy between movement and what he calls stasis, which is like when you don't move on purpose, and then what is monitoring against timing, against structure and alignment, and then how to control the distance, and he talked about integrated body action and leveraging, ambidexterity, spontaneity. These are all obvious aspects of a fighting functional approach, something that countering the counter, what is the flow, recoil options, closest of blocking. Really, this one is done in cooperation with Mark Wiley, who is with him on the cover, and actually, is featuring in the first several chapters.
I never knew.
Great book, man. I mean, Super Dan has his analytical approach to fighting.
Yeah, I mean, right.
Man is a world champion caliber fighter back in his karate days, and there is some overlap between this book and his karate books, but then it's only normal because those underlying systems, it's not by coincidence that I say it's a meta level book. It's something that really transcends styles and interpretation. This is the building blocks of the foundation that good fighting systems are built on.
So so for part 3, are you interested in doing part 3?
At some point, may I mention just one more, and then if you want to, you can.
Yeah. But I would definitely, like, if you have a whole nother category to talk about, I would definitely be interested in doing a part 3 with you, assuming that.
Well, then maybe we can leave this with a couple others. Then for that, if you want to go maybe deeper on that meta level, that might even be my favorite category. If we
should definitely do it, I think, because I think you're going to be able to really present that well. And so if you're up for it, I am absolutely up for doing part 3. So
yeah, sure, why not? Yeah.
So you got Super Dan, you got the Filipino combat systems.
Filipino martial arts. It's Filipino martial arts.
Okay, for Super Dan.
Yeah, it's not very unique title, is it? Okay. But it's a subtitle that matters. It says the core basics, structure, and essentials, and it's about as good description of what you can expect from the book as it gets.
Yeah, and you got
it really is the core essentials that you will need.
What do you got besides FCS there that you for next time? So, folks, this is what's going to be.
I have to go to the bookshelf.
Yeah, no worries. No, I thought maybe if you had them there, but no worries. So, folks, we are definitely going to do a part 3, which I'm excited that Dragan has agreed to do. So, in the area, so we'll be covering the 4th area, which Dragan hasn't been able to tap into yet, and which is his favorite area, which he just mentioned. So, I'm going to be on the sooner end than the later end of this. So, definitely, I want you guys to see this. So what book should I try to bring to the table for next time?
I don't know. Well, you know what? I mean, since I'd like to go into those are the books that kind of, as far as I'm concerned, it can be the books like, Musashi or whatever, because again, on a meta level, it doesn't really matter whether it's really an FMA book.
Yeah.
Because plus, let's face it, there are people out there doing their own stuff now that is heavily FMA influenced or at the root.
Darren.
And, Darren, and then Tom Sotis is there, right? We mentioned Tom's book in our first. We didn't
bring it up again.
Darren too, and they would kind of fall into that category.
Darren's. That the valves of attrition. I mean, we can. I can put Darren's.
I actually had this one in mind. The Mind Sculpting. Sorry. Let's get back to the cover. There you go. This one.
Yes, I have that. Yeah, I got that. Yeah, we can go over that for sure.
This one is less biographic and more into the meat and potatoes. Although I wouldn't, with his approach, I wouldn't call it meat and potatoes. Man, that's a full course meal right there.
Yeah, he's deep. That guy is and you know what though, we can certainly. I don't think it'd be. I have it too, but it wouldn't hurt to You can certainly bring that up
Oh,
again.
yeah.
I mean, no harm, no foul. I mean, that's, and then you got that. I mean, you got it. So we can, we can cover both of them. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So,
yes, sure.
so here, just before you go, like, so Mondays generally work well for you around
Yeah,
5.
yeah, yeah.
I can make Mondays work easy. 5 to 6:30. Okay. Yeah. I might actually be able to even do. Let me just check it. But I know I could do this sooner than later, knowing that you can do Mondays at
But then
5 to
again,
6:30.
that's the same thing you said last time.
Oh boy. You guys got to hold me accountable. See, I know. Just two. I'm taking. Just I know. It's my doing. Yeah.
But then again, in all honesty, I'd rather, watch people such as, Jason Inai or, Nick Papadakis than myself. So, you know,
No,
we'll
but I
go.
like this. I enjoy the theme episodes, like going over stuff like this. These are actually my favorites to do. Than the interviews. To be honest, this is where you can like really dive into stuff and really, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't mind. I do like the interviews. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really digging the theme episodes. Just because you can really get special people on and really dig deep into certain areas and stuff.
And
Um,
it turns into a friendly chat.
yeah, it really does. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And and it's like I don't have to prepare for as. I mean, there's definitely some preparation. I don't want to say that. That's probably not accurate, but it just seems um, it's not as chore oriented. I guess is the best way for me to put it. Like you said, it kind of turns into a conversation. You know what I mean? Where like, oh my god, I forgot to ask him about what he did back in 1989. I missed. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah. Then sleepless night in Connecticut. Um, but I want to thank you so much for doing this. So yes, I'm definitely gonna be doing part 3, folks, and he's gonna be holding me accountable. I would say there will be 2 Mondays from now, if not next Monday. So definitely, I'm gonna check the schedule and all that. But I appreciate you doing this and willing to come back for part 3. You know.
Or
Well,
should I say, I missed the third time, like how.
yeah. But what time is it over there for you now?
Uh, like half an hour after midnight.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. Well,
Not too bad.
again, more reason to appreciate you. You're waiting up this late after the kids getting in bed to do this. So, but all right, sir. But part 3 with you. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see you then. All right, you take care. Thank you so much again.
Have a nice time.
All right. Ooh, I got. I don't know what happened there. All right. All right, folks. Some announcements. Okay, raffle. So the 2 on Bill special is ended. That ended at 11:59 last night. However, though, the main raffle is still going on to May 15th, I believe, to 6 p.m. And then we'll do, of course, the raffle. We'll actually raffle off the items. So please, if you have not, it's $10 a ticket. It's on the group there as far as some of the donated items. A lot of books. I think Brian Rodriguez donated a WeCAF helmet, some other things. We're still taking donations. So it could be lessons, it could be books, it could be gear, weapons, whatever you want to donate. We're taking it all. Again, $10 a ticket. So that's ongoing till May 15th. All right. I'm trying to think what else here. Who is next? Thursday. I think it's going to be Hawk. I'm just waiting to find out. He's supposed to be coming back from Colorado. Everything works out. He should be coming on. Unfortunately, I don't have a time yet. So upon hearing back from him, I'll get further information on that. But that'll be exciting, having Hawk on. So Jungle Bolo. But anyway, if you have not already, please subscribe to FMA Discussion, where all the monies received from the channel go to charity. We do not keep any of it. All right, until next time, thank you for those who watched, commented, and we'll see you then.